Welcome to YouTooSpain. I am Skatz, and in this video I'm going to explain the 180 day rule about how long you can stay in Spain and why some people say 183 days. What's that all about? And if you're an EU citizen, can you stay longer than 90 days in Spain? And what about if your partner is an EU citizen but you're not? Stick around and I will tell you the answers. Let's get straight into it. There are 3 different rules that you need to know, and I'm going to call them Schengen, Residency and Taxation. Schengen. Now there's a word you might have heard. The Schengen Area is what the 180 day rule is all about. It's a group of European countries who decided it would be much better if they could operate kind of like one big country when it comes to borders and visas. You see, once you've crossed the one border into the Schengen area from the outside, there are no border checks on the inside between all of the countries, so you can move around freely. And if you're from one of the many countries in the world who don't need a Schengen visa to get inside the area, all you have to do is show your passport, and if they ask you, show you've got a place to stay and the financial resources to support you during your visit. Make sure though that your passport is valid for at least 3 months after the date when you intend to leave the Schengen area, which could be 6 months after you arrive if you're staying the full 90 days. Do you want to know which countries are part of the Schengen area? Of course you do. Well, there are links to a complete list in the video description below, and also to the list of countries that don't require a visa to visit. Those are countries with a visa waiver. So have a look at that list later. Do it later, because in the meantime, let's talk numbers. 90 and 180. 90 days is how long you're allowed to stay in the Schengen area if you're not a citizen of the EU. But that 90 days doesn't necessarily need to be all at once in a block, because you're allowed to stay a total of 90 days in any rolling period of 180 days. That's where the 180 comes in. That means that the 180 days isn't standing still, it's moving forward in time. What you have to do is count backwards from today's date. If you've spent 30 days in Schengen countries in that 180 days, then you still have 60 days left. If you've spent the last 90 days there, you'll have to leave and wait for another 90 days before you come back. Simple. Let's give you another example. What you could do is spend 2 weeks in Spain, which is in the Schengen area, and then 2 weeks in the UK, which is not in the Schengen area. And then keep on flipping between the two. 2 weeks in one, 2 weeks in the other. If you look online, there are Schengen visa calculators available, which can help you work out how many days you've spent there and when that was and how many days you have left altogether. What you have to remember though is that non-EU passports are stamped as you enter and exit the Schengen area, and the border police do have the technology, the electronic devices to know how many days you've spent there. And if you overstay, you may well have to pay a fine, and you may be stopped from entering the area again for a period of time, which may be years. So don't do that, okay? Especially if you're wanting to get a visa to go and live there in the future, because it will be on your record that you're an overstayer and they might well refuse you the visa. What about EU citizens then? How long can you stay? Well, EU citizens have freedom of movement. Oh yeah. So they can effectively stay and move around the Schengen area as much as they want, as long as they abide by the laws of the individual countries. Not only that, but their spouse and children can do the same. Yes! So if you're a UK citizen with an Irish passport holding wife, you have freedom of movement too. Just make sure you've got proof, especially if you're not glued together. Now, let's talk about residency, because this is where some of the confusion comes in. It's another 90-day rule and it's not about Schengen at all. Even EU citizens need to abide by this one. If, for example, you're a French passport holder and you want to spend more than 90 days, that's 3 months, in Spain, you're supposed to apply for residency, which means that you're registered as living there. It's your home, and you can only officially be resident in one country at a time. Having said that, there are some complications and little sub-clauses within that rule that are all about working in one country and living in another, or having your immediate family living in one country and you spending more than 90 days in another. But let's just set those aside, those tricky, sticky issues. Spain will consider you a resident if you spend more than 3 months there in any 6-month period. Someone on Facebook said to me the other day, actually, you can spend 90 days there, leave for a day, and then come back, and basically the clock resets and you can spend another 90 days there without becoming resident. But I've yet to be shown any documents proving that. If any of you can do that, then post a link to that law. I'll be happy to admit that I've got it wrong. So what that means to EU citizens is that although you can move freely around the EU and Schengen areas, if you want to stay in any one of the countries for more than 3 months, you should register as living there. However, I have no real idea what happens if you overstay. Some UK citizens before Brexit used to do it all the time, and Spain, it seems, used to turn a bit of a blind eye to it. And it's only now that the UK is out of the EU that they're getting into trouble. What I do know for certain is taxation. If you stay for more than 183 days in Spain in any tax year, and the tax year, remember, is from January the 1st to December the 31st, you will be considered a fiscal resident and be required to pay taxes in Spain on all of your worldwide income. Some people get this mixed up with the Schengen 9180 rules and with the 3-month rules of residency, but they're not the same. They're linked, though, because let's face it, once you've spent more than 90 days in Spain and you've gone through the bother of getting residency and proving you've got the financial means to support yourself and your family, you're basically committing yourself to living there. And it won't be long before you've spent 183 days there in the tax year and have to start declaring your income. Now, you could be in Spain for more than 183 days and not have to pay taxes there if, for example, you arrived in August of one year and left in May of the next year. In each of those tax years, you will have spent less than 183 days. It's also worth knowing that the 183 days doesn't have to be all in one block. You could have spent lots of weekends in Spain in the first half of the year and think that, look, if I move there in August, I won't have 183 days left in that year. But all of those weekends in the first half of the year count too. So be careful that the total doesn't all add up to 183 if you don't want to get tangled up in tax complications. Any questions so far? Good. Write them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them, or I'll pass you on to an expert. I'm not an accountant, I'm not an immigration lawyer, so I can't claim to be a qualified expert. Don't stand up in court and say, Skatz told me this was the law, because, well, they're going to laugh at you. But I have read the laws and found the links, so you can read them too below. My suggestion is, if it sounds complicated or you're unsure, ask a lawyer or get in touch with the Spanish embassy or the embassy of whichever countries you want to travel to. Better to be safe than sorry. Something else you need to know if you're an Irish citizen like me. In the list of Schengen countries in the links below, the first thing you might notice is that Ireland is not on the list. They opted out of the Schengen agreement. Something to do with clashing with the free travel area with the UK, which has been in place since before the EU was formed. However, Ireland is an EU member state, so its citizens have the right to freedom of movement around other member states. That's an EU law, not the same as the Schengen Agreement. The UK, of course, is now neither an EU country nor part of the Schengen area, so you're up the creek without a paddle there. Sorry about that. Another thing worth knowing, there are 4 EU countries which are not yet fully part of the Schengen area, but they intend to be in the future, and they are Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus and Romania. Now, you can still stay in any one of those 4 countries for 90 days, but it's not counted as part of the 90 days in the Schengen area. So you could, for example, go to Spain for 90 days, then go to Croatia or Bulgaria for 90 days, then back to Spain for 90 days, blah, blah, blah. If you're okay with moving around a lot and being a digital nomad, it's a great workaround. As I said before, there are tons of links below, and on those sites you get loads more details and links to other things you might need to know. If you can't find what you need there, feel free to ask and I'll see if I can point you in the right direction. If you found what you need on this video, then click on the like button, and don't forget to tune in to my regular Spanish breakfast show live on this channel every Saturday morning, where I ask experts and experienced expats all of the questions asked by you about moving to Spain. That's at 10:30 a.m. Spanish time every Saturday morning. You can ask questions live on the chat or watch the videos back anytime and ask questions in the comments. I also have a Facebook group which is also called YouTooSpain. The link is below. Join me there. Thank you for watching. Peace and love, and I wish you well with your Spanish adventure. Bye for now.